Hello, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's doing well today. Um, I'm trying my best to get streaming more proficient at it and just having better all quality. I'm going to be getting myself a second monitor sometime next month so I can see chat more easier when I'm live streaming or when I'm doing the video. That way, instead of having to look to my right at my laptop. Thing is, the only time I'm going to be able to see the chat is by using my laptop while I'm using my desktop. While I'm recording or while I'm live streaming. So it's sometimes very difficult for me to actually see if anybody's texting me or using chat during my live streams because I have to basically look to my right to look at my laptop as I'm using my desktop. And it's very difficult to know and see when somebody is saying hi to me in chat. So I'm going to be getting a second monitor sometime next month. And I've already ordered the splitter, HDMI splitter. That way I can have two monitors and I can be playing a game at the same time looking over at the other monitor for in case there's a chat. So let's play. Once again, I'm always going to appreciate anybody who subscribes and subs. That means a lot to me. Like I said, it means a lot to me when anybody wants to subscribe. It will be always much appreciated. I will definitely appreciate that if anybody wants to subscribe if they like my video. Of course, leave your comments if you want as well when I'm live streaming. And yeah, like I said, I'm gonna try my best to get a lot better at streaming. It's slowly getting there. There's a couple things that I need to do, kind of get familiar with editing software, as well as, like I said, get that second monitor with the HDMI splitter. And hopefully I'll get this HDMI splitter by next month because I've already ordered it. And I'll be picking up a monitor next month as well, hopefully, if I can. And yeah, so hopefully, and I can stream. I can get my streaming a lot better quality. Doing what I can. I've even upgraded my computer a bit more just so I can actually be run games at a higher frequency for graphics so it can come in a little more clear and sharp. This is very new to me, so like getting the settings correct is going to take me some time, even like getting familiar with editing software, which I haven't really used yet. It's going to take me some time to get familiar with that and how to use that appropriately and properly to get the best quality streaming as I can when it comes to recording or when it comes to live streams. But like I said, my plan is I have pretty much like over 150 games for PC, 150 games for on my Xbox and my PlayStation. Every month, every 2 or 3 months, so I'm buying a new game that's coming out, and I want to just get a YouTube channel, gaming YouTube channel going. So yeah. And I'm gonna be playing Dead or Alive, and because I miss these kinds of games. So you don't get these kinds of games in the West anymore, particularly Canada and United States, because of woke feminist ideology kind of restricting and prohibiting these types of games to be developed or even like brought over from United States to United States and Canada from the East. Because of consultants, journalists, and localizers constantly censoring female video game characters and just pretty much censoring anything that's offensive to journalists, Western journalists, localizers, and consultants. So it's very agitating. Me personally, I don't think we need Western consultants, localizers, or journalists. Especially the consultants, journalists, or localizers for that matter. All three of them, I think, are basically a useless career to have, and it's a career we don't need, especially in the video game industry, because all they specifically do is pretty much look at things that offends them, and they get the developer to reduce or censor or to take something out completely out of a video game. Just because, something offends a journalist, localizer, or consultant. And that just really restricts creative expression. And I'm someone that really believes in the free market. I'm someone that believes in free speech. I'm someone that believes in freedom of expression. And this is a certain area of entertainment when it comes to video games that shouldn't be restricted for, creative expression. and just because you want to defend somebody, and unfortunately we're in an era, a decade, in an era where as soon as somebody gets offended for whatever reason, let's censor whatever that is instantaneously. It doesn't matter if it doesn't offend other people because it specifically offends that woke individual, woke feminist. Their objective is, well, let's censor it because it offends us, and it's ridiculous. Like I said, I'm somebody that believes in free speech. I'm somebody that believes in freedom of expression and the free market. And these woke feminist consultants, localizers, and journalists, their career is literally doing the complete opposite of allowing a free market, allowing freedom of expression, allowing free speech. Their job is literally restricting and and reducing or preventing or just not allowing or discouraging or and just censoring anything that offends them. And especially in the West, we have these people that are like that are easily offended and snowflakes basically that really don't have a tough skin or because they need to feel validated all the time. And unfortunately, because these woke feminists that are pushing this woke ideology need to be validated all the time, they just can't handle it when somebody disagrees with them and just doesn't follow suit, to their woke ideology. So and they go out and they insult that individual or that game character in the video game. Because and the thing about woke feminist ideology is they want you to conform. Simply, they don't want you to be yourself or an individual with your own your own individuality. They want you to basically conform to their ideology, and and it's just unfortunate that and like we can't gamers just can't simply enjoy a game for what it's meant to be without having consultants, localizers, and journalists trying to censor something because it offends them. And and it's just a shame that we can't just simply enjoy a game and let the developer to and allow them to express themselves as creatively as they want to, without the concerns of that person's art that he's developing, whatever kind of source of art it is. Then that artistic expression is going to get censored because of woke feminist ideology. Like, the West has already gone through certain stages. I always call it 3 stages of censorship. I'm going to play the game. I'm going to pause a couple of times because I don't want to be going on forever and not playing a game. I want to make sure there's a good balance. So I'm going to explain a bit further in a sense 3 stages in a little bit. Yeah, like I said, I just don't want to keep speaking and not playing a game because I don't think you're here to watch me hear me rant while I'm playing a game. I think you're here for the gameplay more so than my opinion or how I feel. So I'm gonna make sure in this recording that I'm gonna be playing a game a bit, and I'm not gonna be focusing too much on expressing how I feel about what's going on in the gaming industry. But I will explain the 3 stages of censorship that I'm gonna talk about a bit later on. For now, I'm just gonna play this for a couple of minutes, and then give maybe about 5 minutes. In about 5 minutes, I'll kind of explain about the 3 stages of censorship and uglification. But right now, I'm just gonna play this because I really miss games like this. We won't really get games like this in the West anymore because of woke ideology. Any female video game characters that basically that you would see from Dead or Alive, we're definitely not going to be getting female video game characters like that in the West anymore, without like the concern of them being censored because it offends somebody. But like I said, I'll talk about 3 stages of the censorship that's been happening within the 10 years. But I don't want to go over that right now. I will do that shortly. Like I said, pretty much in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll go over that. Oh my god, these women are so beautiful. Like the women in the Dead or Alive, the female video game characters in Dead or Alive are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, and we will not get these kinds of characters in the West. Why? Because it has fan service and sex appeal. And like woke feminists that are pushing woke ideology, whether it's a male feminist or a female feminist, and they're gonna do whatever they can to, reduce, restrict, censor, and exclude, characters, specifically female video game characters, specifically characters like Dead or Alive. So like I said, I'll explain 3 stages soon. I just don't want to do that right now. I want to enjoy this game that I love, that I absolutely admire, and that I just really appreciate having games, with beautiful, attractive female video game characters. And Dead or Alive is like the best at doing that. So it's really a shame that I haven't really heard anything about Dead or Alive, whether it's the fighting game or the volleyball game, for such a long time, because they kind of been pushed out of the gaming industry because of woke feminist ideology. Especially heavily being forced from the West. Like, just look on what's going on in the West, such as Canada and the United States, with allowing transgenders just to freely go where they want, into a woman's washroom, into women's sports. These characters are so beautiful! Oh man, these characters... Tina, you're sexy, you're adorable, I love you, you're beautiful! Alright, so I've unlocked a good amount of the characters. Let's see here. Change partner. So yeah, I've actually been able to get like a lot of these characters, the Dead or Alive, female characters, video game characters, up quite high in level. There's a few I haven't unlocked yet that I will want to get at some point. I think mostly this character right here I would really like to get, and as well as this character right here, at least, I would also like to get. I haven't unlocked him yet, but I'm working on that. I'm hoping eventually at some point I can. I would have to say, of course, my least favorite character in this game right now is Mary, I think her name is, only because, characters that look like that are not my preference. They're not really my thing, which is this character right here. Mostly just because, and she looks a little too childish. I know, like, her age is not a child. She's actually 18, 19, or 20 or something like that. Like, she's basically an adult. She's an adult, but it's just her appearance, though, kind of has more of a kiddish look, even though, like, her age-wise, she's an adult. But I just don't really care for this kind of character, just because, like, she looks too young for her age, and considering that, and she's, like, 18, 19, 20, which is the age of concession, or, adulthood, basically. It's just, the appearance just, at the same time, it just looks too young for me. Also, I just don't like her body proportions. I just don't like, in a flat chest, really on any female video game character. But that's just my personal preference. But all these characters, like I said, are absolutely stunning. I'm very beautiful, very sexy, very attractive. And what I love about Dead or Alive is that, they're not afraid to have fan service and sex appeal. And we can't get games like this in the West anymore because of woke feminist ideology that's being pushed by feminists. And it's a shame. It really is. Like I said, I'm somebody that really believes in free expression. I believe in free speech, freedom of expression, and free market. And like I said earlier, I feel video games are meant to be a source of artistic expression. And then that's been really censored and taken away from developers having that right, to express yourself artistically, because of woke feminists that are constantly forcing and pushing woke ideology, censoring, reducing, restricting, and developers' art form that they want to present because it's a form of expression, and we can't do that anymore because of these woke feminist ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists. Like, I love pretty much all these characters, man. And it's so hard to have a favorite because I think all these characters, they have wonderful personalities. They have very distinct personalities. Like, if I were to choose this character and say Helena, they're not the same personality. They're not the same character. They have very distinguished personalities that are very different from every character in this menu. And they're not just eye candy, which, you know, are there to be attractive, you know, and to be and to have sex appeal and fan service. Now, it's awesome that these characters do have it, but that doesn't take away from the character's personality that has kind of been created. And like, if I were to compare any of these characters with one another, you would be able to notice that their personalities are very distinguished and they're very distinct from each other. So it's a really hard choosing because, like I said, honestly, I think they're absolutely all gorgeous, beautiful, and attractive, and absolutely sexy. Love the fact, like I said, Dead or Alive has tons of fan service and sex appeal. But it's hard to choose too because, like I said, these characters have very distinguished personalities, and you're not going to see them all having the same personality. So it really comes down to, I guess, preference at this point. I do like the fact that there's a lot more selection in this one. In the previous Dead or Alive volleyball game, there wasn't as much selection because, once again, you know, censorship has kind of been happening within the last 10 years, and you know, censorship has really been taking away a lot of fan service and sex appeal, specifically only from female video game characters. So Dead or Alive, you know, and they haven't really been able to actually express their game that much anymore in the West because, you know, that Dead or Alive has always been known to really have a lot of sex appeal and fan service in their games, and they just don't have they can't really artistically express that anymore because of woke feminist ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists. So they can't really do anything about that now, and this is why we won't see any games from Dead or Alive anymore being developed in the East that brought over to the West, because to Canada and the United States, because of, you know, woke feminist ideology that's being pushed in the West, heavily pushed in the West. And I absolutely miss games like this. I really do. And the thing that's annoying too is, like, games, you know, they're meant to be, like I said, a source of entertainment, a form of a creative expression. And like, as a developer, the games should be they should have the freedom and the right to be, you know, as creatively expressive as they want to be, but they can't do that anymore. And it's not just that video games were a form of, you know, artistic expression. It's the fact that it's all is meant for entertainment and like escapism. I keep getting twisted with that word, escapism. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Like I said, that's the tongue twister word for me, escapism. But yeah. Like, besides video games being a creative form of artistic expression, the fact is that video games were also there for entertainment, for, you know, and people to kind of like take themselves out of reality and like the situations that's going on within the reality of the world, and to kind of close their mind off and kind of separate themselves from what's happening in the world. So it was a form of entertainment, besides being the method of a developer being able to actually be able to have that right to be, you know, creatively expressive. And like, the whole point to me with the video game was, as I'm playing, is that I can do things that I can't do in a video game. I can be things that I can't be in reality, and I can have things that I want to be able to obtain in reality. Yeah, and that's what I feel video games were meant to be. Besides it being a creative form, artistic expression, that developers should have a right to not be censored or restricted or reduced, and have that right to be able to be creatively expressive. Games for players, you know, and it was also a form to kind of separate themselves from reality and from the world that around them, to kind of separate themselves from that and find entertainment in a way that allowed them to kind of, like I said, achieve things that they couldn't achieve within their reality, within their world, to have something that they couldn't have, to be something they couldn't be, and to just, you know, and feel like you can be you're basically in a whole matrix, like a whole new reality that you can do things that you couldn't do within like your own reality. and it's just a shame because like you can't, because of with the censorship, like not allowing developers to be as artistically expressive as they want to be, and reducing that artistic expression because of woke feminist ideology, pushing censorship, and within that censorship restricting that right for a developer to be artistically expressive. It also takes away the value of the game from gamers, because like I said, gamers play games because it allows them to separate themselves from the world that they live in, to put themselves in a whole new reality. And within that reality is basically so they can, like I said, to be things they could never be, to achieve things they could never achieve, and to have things they can never have. And that was the whole point of video games, and that's why, it was so important to be able to have that developer, and giving that developer the right to, artistically express himself without boxes, without censorship, without restrictions. And unfortunately now, with all this censorship, with all these restrictions, because it offends somebody, like, developers can't be, artistically expressive or creative anymore because of woke feminist ideology that's being pushed by woke individuals, whether if it's female or male feminists. And simply just because it simply offends them, or they find it offensive, that somehow they think it gives them the right to censor and restrict, in that form of creative expression from the developer, that developer should have the right to be able to express. And not only, dumbfounds, in that development, it also, like I said, takes away, in that individual right for a gamer to really be able to separate themselves from their reality, to put themselves in a whole new reality where they can do things they couldn't do within their own reality, which is, to be able to achieve things that they couldn't achieve, to be able to have things they couldn't have, and to be able to be, and just to be something that, and a whole completely different person, in a sense, where it's like in a video game, just a whole new reality. And it's like the Matrix movie, and it's like every gamer is Neo, and they're trying to escape, in their reality, to follow the white rabbit, to put themselves in a whole new reality, and a reality where they can be whatever they want to be, and where to have whatever they can have, and to do the things that, and they couldn't do within their own reality. And to have things that they couldn't have within their own reality. And that was the whole point of video games. It was, in that escapism that allowed them to kind of like have things, be things, and do things they could never do. And then like when with this woke feminist ideology being so soft and snowflakes and, and so easily offended, it's like they somehow, as soon as they find something offensive to them specifically, even regardless if it doesn't offend anybody else, because it offends that woke individual, somehow it seems like it gives them the right, to censor and reduce and restrict creativity, especially, in the form of artistic and creativity and artistic expression. And and it's not just the developers that suffer from woke feminists or woke feminist woke ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists, but and gamers suffer as well from that. And like, this is why I can't stand this woke ideology anymore, because it's literally, as soon as they're offended, let's restrict something, let's reduce something, let's exclude something because we're offended. And and like I said, developers suffer, gamers suffer from it, because developers can't be, and artistically expressive, can't be artistically creative, and use their form of art to express, and to express something and to express themselves artistically. And then gamers suffer because they can't allow that. They're not getting like the full value of a game that could be there, that allows them to take them into a whole new reality where they can be something that they couldn't be, to achieve something they couldn't achieve, and have things they couldn't have within their own reality of in the world that that's going on. So like I said, and developers suffer, and from this woke ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists, that and gamers suffer, developers suffer, and like I said, I honestly don't think we need journalists. We don't need journalists. We don't need consultants, and we don't need localizers, because their job literally is not to allow a creative. Their job is basically not to allow free speech, and freedom of expression, the free market. They're there to literally exclude and reduce or restrict all that when it comes to freedom of expression, free speech, and a free market. That's why we don't need, these Western woke localizers, consultants, and journalists, because they're not there to allow, and freedom of expression, and free speech and a free market. They're there to literally reduce, restricting, and exclude things, especially anything that offends them. Specifically what offends them, regardless if it doesn't offend anybody else. And it's so irritating. Like gamers, like I said, suffer. Developers suffer because they're not allowed. They're not, with this woke ideology being pushed by woke feminists. Developers are not being allowed to be able to completely have the freedom to express themselves artistically, in a form of artistic expression. And then gamers suffer because they're not able to have like certain things that that they couldn't be able to attain in reality of their own, within the reality of their own world, and within in reality of video games. And it's not even, and it's just, I say reality of video games because video games are make believe, but in its own way, and it's almost like a reality in itself, because there's and there's all these characters, there's all these worlds, there's all these scenery, there's all these environments, there's all like these towns, these cities, like, even though it's not like the same reality as the reality that an individual is actually living, but in a way it's almost like its own reality too, because of the amount of detail you can have within characters, within buildings, within environments. And it's just, that's why gamers play video games, is because to them it's a whole new reality that's separate from their own reality that they live in. And that's why gamers suffer when you have this woke ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists, because they literally aren't there to allow free speech, freedom of expression, and a free market. They're there to literally reduce, restrict, and exclude, especially the things that specifically offend them. And I don't know if it's because the validation, if they feel like they have to do these things, and censorship and heavy censorship and like uglification, if they're doing it because like it's for validation for them, or and it's because they lack self-confidence and they have low self-esteem. And I'm starting to think, honestly, it's just the fact, like, it's honestly, like I said, I just think it's the fact that, and they have low self-esteem, and they have, like, and they lack self-confidence. And they're doing all this censorship and exclusion and reducing and restricting and just, and for validation. Because they have, low self-esteem and they have lack self-confidence. And I honestly think they're doing it so they can feel validated about themselves. Because, like, I guess when they see something that they're not able to achieve, and somehow that probably offends them. Anything that, and it's stupid how easily people get offended and they somehow think that it should give them a right to take something, a right away from somebody else because they're offended. Like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe that if somebody's offended about something, that means it gives them a right to take away the rights of somebody else. And that's what woke ideology is about. It's about being the victim, so you can say that I'm offended, so you can say that you have the right to take the rights away from somebody else. That's what it's about, and it's absolutely absurd. Oh, sex. Oh my god, I love it when games do that. Shake it. Oh, what was the song I was thinking about? Shake, shake it. No, that's Taylor Swift. Oh, I forget. Like, this is like, you won't see games anymore that are alive because it has sex appeal and fan service and jiggle physics. And and some male feminists and female feminists, oh my god, that's so insulting and that's so offensive. We gotta completely take it out of video games. Because something as little as jiggle physics is enough to offend, a woke feminist that's either a male feminist or female feminist. And like I said, I'm going to go through the 3 stages of censorship that's happened within the last 10 years, but that's been pushed by woke feminist ideology. I mean, woke feminists, woke ideology that's been pushed by woke feminists. I'm going to explain the 3 stages after. Like I said, I know last time I said I'll explain it like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, but within 10 minutes, 5 minutes, but I'll do that soon. But oh my god, I miss video games like this so much. With actually having attractive, beautiful, and gorgeous, and female video game characters. Okay, I worked on Tina a bit. Maybe I should have used a different character for a few seconds. Yeah, let's use a different character for a bit. I love all the characters and the Dead or Alive, all the female video game characters from Dead or Alive, but I like mixing it up every once in a while. So I got free, we also got 4 tickets. I'm gonna use some of those tickets right now. So it is 11:47 where I am right now because I'm Canadian. But so at 11:55 Canadian Eastern Time, I'm going to explain the 3 stages of censorship that has been pushed by this woke ideology by woke feminists. I'll do that soon. I think if you play the games for as long as I have, though, you already know what I'm talking about or kind of understand the kind of censorship and uglification that's been going on. I've been playing video games for pretty much more than 20 years of my life, and this whole censorship that's been pushed by woke ideology and by woke feminists has been happening within the last 10 years. So I will explain that, but I don't think I really need to, just because I'm sure there's gamers like myself that have been playing video games for, in 20 years or longer like I have. So, but I'll still do it anyways, just because I think it's important that the newer generation is aware of the amount of censorship that's been happening and the uglification of female video game characters. So if you've been playing video games for as long as I have, you can you don't have to watch this video. I'm going to be doing another recording of Dead or Alive later on and uploading that to YouTube. So if you already know all this stuff, then you don't have to watch this video, but if you don't mind subscribing, that would be awesome. I would appreciate it. But I'm going to do another recording of this game, and I'm going to be uploading it. I'm not going to be speaking as much in that video. I'm just speaking right now a lot in this video about this issue for me personally, because it's been something that's been extremely frustrating and irritating. And I'm personally, like I said, I've been playing video games for 20 years of my life, more than 20 years, and I've been seeing what's been happening within that. In more than 20 years I've been playing video games. Specifically only uglifying female video game characters and heavily censoring them. And this has all been happening within the last 10 years and being pushed by woke feminists pushing woke ideology. Kokoro! She's cool, I like her too. I like this game, I did like the other volleyball games. I just feel like there was less characters. I do like this one a little more, just because there's more characters you can select from in this one compared to the previous one. But at least the previous one, you actually had more control of the characters. Right now, this one is just you use your mouse and click those buttons at the bottom right, and it's kind of like you're not really controlling the characters at all with the controller. they're kind of like doing it on their own. So I kind of miss the other Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball games because you actually were controlling the controller. I mean the character with the controller. This you're not really controlling the characters. They're kind of automated, kind of doing this all themselves. So you really only get the option of using these down here, which is still somewhat interactive, but it's not as interactive as the previous Dead or Alive volleyball games. And I kind of do miss, you know, and actually me having to complete control of that character. But I do like this one more than the previous ones, even though there's not as much control of you being able to actually have that control of the character. I do like that there's more female video game characters in this game though, and that there's more selection. I found like the previous Dead or Alive Extreme series had a little less selection of the characters you can choose from. So I do like that there's more of a selection in this one. I just don't like that within this one you don't really get you don't get to control the character yourself like you were able to do in the previous Dead or Alive volleyball games. But it's a good game overall. I love like Dead or Alive. I love the fact like I said, all the female video game characters in Dead or Alive, whether it's the fighting or the volleyball game, are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. With that have sex appeal and fan service. But I'm gonna change this up because I've been using Tina for a bit. So let's change up the character quickly here. How do I do this? Oh yeah, girls. I'm gonna do the collection because I think I got in the hot springs and you go up levels as well as I think you can get something else. Oh yeah, and this is stuff you use to upgrade your swimsuit. But yeah, I want to use somebody else now. How do I do this again? Yeah, okay, so I have this character as a partner is who I want to use. So hard to select. All these characters are absolutely stunning and gorgeous. It's really difficult to choose who to use. Because I like pretty much all of them. There's like only maybe 2 of these female video game characters I don't really care for that much. But like I like all of them. So let's go Helena. I've always liked her, especially in the fighting series. There's characters they don't have in this that I really wish they would bring to this game. I think the characters I would really love to see is Christy and Lisa. Christy and Lisa would be awesome if they could bring that over to this game. Those characters over to this game. Because, you know, when I was playing the Dead or Alive fighting game, honestly, Christy and Lisa were one of 2 of my favorite. Well, they're all my favorites, but I also play Christy and Lisa quite a bit, and I really would love them to bring those 2 characters over to this game when it comes for Dead or Alive, the volleyball game, with this version of the volleyball game, and it would be really nice to see Christy and Lisa brought over to this volleyball game. Now, I have her, so why? Yeah, so if I go home... Okay, so she should be home, alright. Now, if I go to Festival... Oh, I remember what I have to do now, sorry. So I gotta click here, then I have to change the character specifically like this. There we go. Alright, yeah, so I'm gonna use Helena for a bit. Yeah, so... I'm going to start explaining what I was talking about censorship now, though. So the censorship, like I was saying, is all this has been happening within recently the last 10 years. It started off with light censorship within the beginning of the 10 years. In about the middle of the 10 years, it became from light censorship to heavy censorship. And in more recent years, it became uglification of female video game characters. With the light censorship, what happened with the light censorship is like the breast size of female video game characters were slightly reduced, and then more clothes were added to them just to cover up more skin, so less skin was showing. And that was kind of light censorship. Like it was just slightly changing the hourglass shape and the body proportions, and slightly reducing the chest and adding more clothes. And that was the light censorship. And then after about the middle of the 10 years, it became heavy censorship. And what heavy censorship was basically they decided to pretty much, instead of just slightly covering up, instead of slightly reducing the breast size, and changing the body proportions to be less curvy or that hourglass shape, and kind of slightly reducing that, and putting more clothes on the characters. It became, and that was light censorship, and that happened at the beginning, roughly at the very beginning of the 10 years that this woke ideology has been happening. That's been pushed by woke feminists. And then in about the middle of the 10 years, it became heavy censorship. Heavy censorship, what that was basically just completely remove the fan service, completely remove the sex appeal, completely remove the jiggle physics, heavily reduce the breast size to an A cup and the B cup. And then, so there was really, in that way, and just take out sex appeal and fan service. And it was basically, and with the heavy censorship that happened within the middle of the 10 years, it was, in a way, the sex appeal and fan service was completely removed at that point, was they completely took out the jiggle physics, and they covered the character out from neck to toe in clothing, and they heavily reduced the breast size to basically an A cup and a B cup. And then, and then maybe not really much with the hourglass shape of the character, because that was slightly already reduced enough from light censorship at the beginning of the 10 years. So the heavy censorship was pretty much, like I said, at that point, and just completely reduced the breast size drastically to an A cup and a B cup with pretty much every female video game character that was coming out, and just covering them up, in clothing from neck to toe. Yeah, and like at this point, not showing any skin whatsoever and completely removing the jiggle physics. And the light censorship, like, there was some games that were still coming out with jiggle physics, but there was a lot of games that were coming out with no jiggle physics, even though there were still some games coming out with jiggle physics. And like I said, with the light censorship, the breasts were slightly reduced. They weren't reduced to an A cup and only a B cup, but they were slightly reduced. And the hourglass shape kind of was reduced as well, changing the body proportions of the female video game character to be less curvy, and slightly reducing the breast size and giving them a bit more clothing to kind of make sure that, a little less skin was being revealed. And that was kind of the light censorship. And this was all happening, really, this woke feminist ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists, happening kind of in, happening in the West. And like, the three stages I'm talking about at the moment are referring to, like, West censorship and uglification of female video game characters. The East is kind of going that route too. They're not really there to where United States is and Canada is at the moment, but the East is kind of going in that direction as well, and kind of fully embracing the woke ideology. But I'm referring right now the three stages to the West, more not really the East. And so, like I said, it was light censorship at the beginning of the 10 years. In the middle of the 10 years, it became heavy censorship, and in the more recent years, it became uglification of specifically female video game characters. Like I said, the light censorship, like I said, was slightly reducing the breast size, putting more clothes on them, and then slightly reducing the curvature and the hourglass shape of the body, slightly reducing the proportions of the body of the female video game character, reducing the breast size a little bit, and covering them up a bit more in clothing. And then some games were kind of coming out with jiggle physics, but then there was a lot of games that weren't coming out with jiggle physics. And that was the light censorship. And the heavy censorship at this point was every game that was coming out was the jiggle physics was completely removed from the female video game character. And instead of just covering up in a little bit of clothing, they were literally covered up to neck to toe in clothing, as well as heavily reducing the breast size to only a cup or a B cup, as well as completely taking out the jiggle physics. So, like the sex appeal and fan service was completely excluded from female video game characters at that state. And then we're in the more recent years, like I was saying, whereas now instead of just, heavy censorship and light censorship, it's complete uglification of female characters. At this point, what I mean is, like, now let's pretty much drastically, and remove the hourglass shape and the curvature of the female video game body and proportions, and let's give them a square shape now. And where there's barely any curvature on them whatsoever, and then making them very masculine. And it's like, and what was bad was when it came to uglification, it started off with the body, but then eventually got to the face. And what happened with the face was, like, then all of a sudden that kind of lost its softness, and its circular shape, and it became more rigid, it became more rough, it became more like coarse, it became more angular, and so the face after it started with the body, where it was just, okay, let's pretty much even reduce the curvature even more and not give them an hourglass shape whatsoever. That if we're capable of making sure that they don't have that. And then as well, and like I said, at this point with the heavy censorship, the breasts were pretty much already reduced heavily down to an A cup and B cup, and they've already had their clothes from neck to toe on, so they didn't really see any skin whatsoever. So then it became about, like, finishing off that, that censorship of the body, with the uglification and just completely taking away as much curve as the curvy body and hourglass shape that they could as possible, but also kind of giving them uglifying their face after with uglification and just giving them a more like, even personality wise, just giving them a more aggressive, more, you know, masculine personality. Besides also at this point kind of just altering the face besides just the body to make it look more masculine. So at this point the uglification, like the characters don't even feel feminine whatsoever, not just with body or not just with their body, but personality as well. And I think for me personally what is frustrating is that like the sex appeal and the fan service is completely out of the Western video game now when it comes to female video game characters and games that are being developed in the West. Like you will never see, you know, in a game that's going to come out that has, you know, in a sex appeal and fan service and actually having like attractive female video characters, like the female video game characters that we used to get more than 20 years ago, more than 15 years ago. Hell, more than 12 years ago, we were getting like actual female video game characters that had fan service, that had sex appeal, that actually looked like a woman. Because they had the hourglass shape of the body and the curvature of the body. They actually had large breasts. Not every single one of them did, but there was actually a lot of female video game characters that actually had large breasts, which I mean like a C cup and greater than a C cup. Not this crap of A cups and B cups only. No, and they actually had C cups. They actually had D cups and like double D cups. Like they were and they were not just that, they were also feminine. You know, and they were strong, that kicked ass, but they also had, you know, a feminine appearance and a feminine attitude and a feminine personality, even though they were able to kick ass. Like, we won't get those games anymore because of this woke ideology that's being pushed right now from woke feminists. Like, we'll never see a game anymore that comes out or developed, especially developed in the West or like the East, bringing games over that have, you know, attractive, gorgeous female video game characters that have sex appeal and fan service. You know, female video game characters such as characters from Dead or Alive, or Edie from Mass Effect, or Miranda from Mass Effect, or Ashley from Mass Effect. Even like characters, you know, from Soul Calibur. You know, we're not going to see a game anymore that comes out with Ivy or Take because, you know, and they got fan service and sex appeal. You know, and then they got actual body proportions of an hourglass shape, as well as having very feminine, voluptuous curves, and actually having breasts that are, you know, bigger than like a C cup. You know, and like we're not going to get characters like that anymore developed in the West because of this woke feminist ideology that's being pushed by, you know, male or female feminists, because, you know, and they're easily offended. And when they're offended about something, they somehow think that it gives them the right to restrict, reduce, or exclude something, and that it gives them the right to take away rights from other people. And like, unfortunately, like that's what's happening in the video game industry. And it's like, as a game developer, you don't have the creative freedom that you should have to be artistically expressive, because of this woke feminist ideology that's constantly, you know, and excluding, restricting, and reducing things that defend them. When it comes to these journalists, consultants, and localizers, you know, and like as a gamer, it kind of sucks too, because like then that takes away the capability of allowing you to bring yourself into a whole different reality, and other than the reality that you live in, because, you know, and there's something that if something offends somebody, well then that kind of whole new reality that's been created, there's certain things that's not going to be in it, that's going to be excluded from it because somebody got offended. And somehow, and like I said, I don't know if like these woke feminist individuals, whether it's female or male, end up doing it because somehow it gives them validation for how they feel about themselves, or, you know, or if it's just that because they lack, you know, low self-esteem. I mean, they lack self-confidence and they have low self-esteem. So like, I honestly don't know entirely the whole reason why they do it, but like obviously they're not doing it because they give a crap about gamers and they give a crap about video games and they give a crap, like I said, about freedom of speech, free expression, and free market. They're obviously doing it from a place of feelings more so than like respecting other people's individual rights. And obviously the fact is, like, as soon as they get offended about something, and somehow, like I said, it seems to think that it gives them the right to take away rights from other people because they're offended. And it's like, not everybody gets offended about the same thing. there are certain things that offend people that are completely offensive differently to somebody else that doesn't have the same offense of what that thing offended somebody else with. Like, it's, I don't know, it's so aggravating. Like, just to be able to play this game that I'm playing right now, I literally had to run through hoops, you know, and just to figure out how to own it and play it, because, like, it was something that wasn't, like, easily accessible to me. You know, I absolutely love games like this. I absolutely miss games like this that have, you know, attractive female video game characters, that have sex appeal and fan service, that have jiggle physics, that actually show skin. But we can't get that anymore because of woke feminists that they want to push this woke ideology, because somehow they think that when they're offended that it gives them the right to take away rights of other people, other individuals. It makes, you know, it harder to develop a game, and it restricts the right for a developer to be able to creatively express themselves how they want to, and it takes away the pleasure from a gamer, because now they can't have things in the game that kind of allows them to bring themselves in a whole different reality of being able to achieve things they couldn't achieve in their own reality, to be able to be things they couldn't be in their own reality, and to be able to have things that they couldn't have in their own reality. Like, it's the whole point of video games, is it was to be able to allow yourself to escape from your reality, to put yourself in a whole different reality that where you can accomplish things that you couldn't within your reality. And like, that's why how gamers suffer when we have this woke ideology that's being pushed by woke feminists that want to constantly reduce, restrict, or exclude something. And it's so annoying because they constantly virtue signal about like inclusion, diversity, and like representation. But then they purposely go out of their way to try and get developers to change their game and try and get them to censor or exclude something that offends them. Even though they want to constantly preach like they're on somehow kind of like noble grounds about diversity, inclusion, and representation in video games, but yet they purposely say we want this stuff to be included, but yet because this offends stuff, this stuff needs to be not included in the game. Like, that's so hypocritical. And like I was saying about the censorship, what's hypocritical about that too, with how they always do it specifically only to female video game characters, is they never apply the same principles and procedures to male video game characters. Every time they want to censor, light censorship, heavy censorship, and nullification is always, it's only to female video game characters, never being applied to male video game characters, and it's just upsetting and hypocritical, and like those two things alone are so hypocritical.
I know you can. Can you listen? Microphone one check. Can you hear me? I know the bar.
負けないんだからチームワーク見せてあげましょう。よろしくお願いしますね。酔わせてあげる。楽しみましょう。行きますよ。誰？お願い。決めますよ。はい。それじゃダメね。やったわ。
Like I said, I'm someone that really believes that a person should have the right as an individual, you know, to free speech, freedom of expression, and the free market. And we can't have those things as long as we have, you know, these woke feminists that are pushing this woke ideology.
次はどうされたいですか？
So like I said, those are the two very hypocritical things. Like I said, they want to preach. They want to preach like they're on some kind of noble high ground about inclusion, diversity, and representation, but it's like they want to make sure that it's whatever the inclusion is what is ideal to them. You know, and as long as, you know, and like it's a person, whether it's a male or female video game character, as long as it's a person that is either gay or trans, or you can make it a transgender or is LBs, you know, and they're completely happy with, you know, and having that and representing the video game, and we'll do it, and like we'll praise, applaud, you know, and like cheer for that. But then all of a sudden, when there's characters such as characters from Dead or Alive that are female video game characters, all of a sudden they get and all offended and angry and insulted, acting like they're some kind of victims because they can say, "Oh, I'm playing the victim card by saying I'm offended." And then it's like they want to preach about inclusion, diversity, and representation, but then it's like, and they'll like I said, they'll applaud, they'll cheer, they'll support, they'll show like just admiration for like being allowed, and characters that and represent like they're what's ideal to them, such as like characters that are obese, characters that are transgender, characters that are gay, and they'll be all happy with a complete support from them of having those characters represent the video game. But then, like I said, they'll do whatever they can to get characters, specifically female video game characters, female video game characters from Dead or Alive, or like Edie from Mass Effect, Ashley, Miranda, or Ivy, or Take from Soul Calibur, or like 2B or Bayonetta, excluded from video games. Like, it's just absurd, the hypocrisy of that. Like, how can you preach like that you're in for representation, inclusion, and diversity, saying that you want inclusion, but yet you're purposely going out of your way to try and exclude some other characters? Like, that's so hypocritical. And then, like I said, they don't apply this whole censorship of light censorship, heavy censorship, and nullification to male video game characters. They keep doing it only to specifically female video game characters as soon as they find something offensive about that character. Like, that's so hypocritical right there. That's one thing that's hypocritical. And like I said, the second thing that's hypocritical is that they constantly preach about diversity and inclusion, but yet they try and exclude characters that are not ideal to them, and then they try and censor that character when they can't get that character excluded from a video game. Such as characters such as female video game characters, female video game characters, such as Dead or Alive female video game characters, female characters. Like, it just makes no sense to me. It's like I'm kind of tripping over my words, but like, it's just as aggravating. I've never been so aggravated out of something that I've always loved to do, that I've been very passionate about for more than 20 years of my life, feeling like it's been taken away from me, what I like, what my preferences are, because it offends somebody else. Like, I constantly, if something offends me, I'm not going to be like, oh, that means that right person shouldn't have the right to be able to actually express themselves artistically, or have, free speech, or have freedom of expression, or have access to a free market. Just because something offends me, I don't believe in that. I believe that everybody should have a right to those three things, regardless of how offended they are. And they shouldn't give the right for that individual that's offended to take that right away from somebody else. This is why, like, journalism and why localizers and consultants are pointless. Like, they're not there to allow a free market, freedom of expression, free speech, and at all. They're there to exclude, restrict, and reduce something that offends them. And if they can't exclude it, they censor it. But yet they preach about this freaking inclusion and diversity, but yet fucking they constantly go out of their way to try and exclude what's not ideal to them, and then if they can't exclude it, they censor it. Like I said, I don't know what it is with these woke individuals, these woke feminists, but it's absolutely absurd. Like, they're nothing but, they're the most hypocritical people I've ever seen on any form of media, or in anywhere on the face of the planet, or that I've seen in my own town. Like, it's just the most hypocritical people I've ever heard, seen, or read of in my entire life, or that I've seen other people discuss. Like, it's just, they're the most hypocritical I've ever. It's ridiculous. I've always been one to kind of like, and like I said, and say what you mean what you say. And if you're gonna say like one thing's not okay, it shouldn't mean that you should go around and do the complete opposite of that, and then all of a sudden say that's not okay. And for them, like I said, to be preaching about inclusion and diversity, but then going out of their way to specifically try and get something excluded because it's not ideal to them, and if they can't, they censor it. Then it's not like, you're being hypocritical because you're not practicing what you're preaching. You're only practicing what you're preaching when these characters are ideal to you, and usually what's ideal to them is making sure, and when it's a gay or transgender, or if it's an obese person, that's what's ideal to them. You know, or a character that's, you know, in an A cup or a B cup that doesn't have a curvy body. That's what's ideal to them, and they'll love having all those four things represented in the video game. But as soon as this doesn't fall within that, and within those categories, those four categories of either having a female character basically be having an A cup or a B cup and have like no hourglass figure whatsoever and no curves, or be voluptuous, or if the character's not gay or trans or obese, if they're not within those four categories, like I said, it's okay, well, now we gotta exclude that character because they're not within those four categories of what's ideal to us. And oh, we can't exclude it, well, let's censor it now. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's absurd.
さあいらっしゃい。退屈させないでくださいね。お願いします。